Charles, Ian, thank you for joining us, sharing a bit about your project, and congratulations to you and your team for being finalists in the CEO Awards.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I like to start all of these with the same question for each team. What's your project about?
So to kind of set the scene a little bit, we work at facilities that create a slate of products, right? And those products have a variable margin across them. And, our facility is an old facility built in the 1970s, a very different market, very different environment, right? So the market at that time was very geared towards a single product with something we call a light product at our facility. And, we ran this product for decades. It was really well. If I may be biased myself, we did it extremely well. But as we all know, market conditions change, right? We're always trying to adapt to them, and it can be pretty hard in a rigid environment like a facility, right? You have very rigid equipment pieces. Flexibility is difficult. So our project was, we started to see this light material, the demand start to really falter, mostly from an oversupply capacity from other facilities who can make it a little bit cheaper than we can, but we're still extremely profitable on the tail end on what we consider to be our heavier products. So the big thing for us was, okay, we identified this market condition that exists. The EDA, which is that light molecule once again, is how can we adapt to the market? How can we help our business move forward? How can we generate value, not just for ourselves, but obviously for our shareholders, right? So the big thing for us was, okay, we've identified it. We believe we have the capacity to resolve it. So it was really a team effort across the facility. This was not just operations. This was bringing in the maintenance. This was bringing in the engineering and looking at, okay, where do we have the possibilities of trying to reduce this production of this material and make it into a more profitable product. So we looked at what we consider our recycle pumps. So they're ways that we make a light molecule into a heavy molecule. So we're able to continue our normal production, move it back through the process, and generate a low profit, very hard to move material into a heavy material. So we were able to increase rates significantly. Our maintenance team did an incredible job, an absolutely incredible job at identifying reliability issues at our site, finding the root causes, especially of those reliability issues, and driving those forward. So we were able to basically, we went from a primary producing facility of this molecule, EDA, to an almost net zero with zero capex involved in that. So we talk about the rigid structure, right, of a facility, being able to have that level of flexibility without changing your assets, just maximizing it, maximizing the throughput and reducing those bottlenecks, especially on the tail end. It's a very difficult thing to do and something that we're incredibly proud about.
All right. Well, that sounds really exciting. So you kind of re-engineered the site with no capital to make something that it probably wasn't originally designed to do.
Yeah, that's correct. So, 35%, when we were built, 35% of our production went into this product. Okay. That is the reason we were built.
All right.
But, new technology comes online. We were able to become, we're less profitable than that now. And now we make 4% of that product.
Okay. So, that sounds really amazing that you were able to make that transformation without even any capital. But, projects, you got to love projects. You've got your well-intentions and your good intentions and what you want to accomplish, but they always face their own unique challenges and road bumps, speed bumps. What comes to your mind is one of the biggest challenges that you faced in pulling this off, making this transformation?
So we talked a little bit about it in the previous question, but really it was the reliability aspect. It was a big factor. Looking even back a year or two ago, these pumps that are the primary driver for this change, for this innovation, just had massive issues associated with them. So from an operational side, we identified the issue. We said, hey, this is where we really can tackle it, where we can really drive down that EDA production and start maximizing the profitability of our heavies. But ultimately, we're constrained by the ability of the equipment to run it. So our maintenance team kind of refocused themselves onto that particular aspect because, they're dealing with all the firefighting in the plant as well, right? They can't just focus on one single thing, but they were able to reprioritize their tasks and really identify and look into these pumps. We brought in OEM manufacturers to tell them how to properly repair them. We actually hired in personnel to focus in on rotating pumps, especially to figure out, okay, what's the root causes. We looked at even documentation, making sure that, okay, the spare parts that we have are adequate. The metallurgy of those parts, do they need to be upgraded here and there? We looked at springs, air entrapment within the oil that was leading to diaphragm issues. And we kind of just across the board went ahead and just increased the reliability of those pumps. And then from the operational side, we increased our flow rate through those pumps. Well, that's easy, right? The hard part is, okay, we know we have bottlenecks in our facility downstream. How do they accept that flow? So that was our operators, and our operations staff, honestly, driving those back-end rates, looking at the design capabilities of those back-end rates and thinking, okay, these are where we are limited. Okay, how do we maximize those assets? And how do we do it sustainably? Because, I wouldn't say it's easy. It's still difficult to do it over the course of a week, but how do you do it over the course of a year, right? And that's really where the big achievement came from. And when you talk about hurdles, okay, we've maximized it. We come across an issue. There's always that tendency to be like, oh no, here's an issue. I want to back down from it. I'm taking my foot a little bit off the gas. It's okay, we understand the issue. Let's refocus ourselves. Let's not hold back. Let's figure out where that issue is. Let's resolve it, and let's put ourselves back on the gas pedal in a safe manner and drive those assets forward. And that happens with any project. And it's just really important that you always reorient yourselves and kind of take away that fear. And that, when you're going away from the known and saying, okay, we understand this. We're doing it in a safe and a practical way, and we're just going to continue to push this. And once you push it and you can kind of keep it there for a week or two, it starts to become, that's the new habit, that's the new tendency. And then the abnormal becomes, oh, I'm moving away from that no EDA production, so I'm going to do it.
Okay, great. And was going to just ask, so it sounds like it was a great project in terms of improving profitability. You're moving from something that's being oversupplied, less margin, to something that has higher margin. What were some other benefits of the project that may not have been financial but are still very important?
So I'll tell you, personally, there was a big benefit to me because I've got this bucket list, right? And on that bucket list was to stand in front of a CEO and all of his officers and say, I've delivered double-digit returns that actually show up on the profit and loss statement, saved amount of $1 million, saved amount of raw materials, and be able to pull that off. I mean, for me, it was like a personal high. Loved it. So thank you all for that opportunity.
Oh, no. Thank you for the innovation.
So looking forward, though, what every site like this that makes a fixed slate of homologs, the problem is that they're never in demand at the same ratio, right? So some of those can be very difficult to move on the market. So one exciting thing about this type of innovation is that now we kind of taken those handcuffs off, and so we give a little relief to our sales team because now they don't have to sell everything all the time. Instead, we can take some of that material, we can do what we do with it, try not to disclose any type of information here, and we can turn it into stuff that we can sell, maybe even at a higher margin. So if you take that to its limit, right, now you've absolutely decoupled yourself from the individual homologs, markets. And if you find something out there on the market that could be relatively inexpensive because nobody wants it, I mean, there are times we've offered people a free rail car of material because we couldn't do anything with it, right? So if we can find some of those opportunities, maybe we can bring some of that material back to us and not buy the primary raw materials. Instead, just convert what they have at a cheaper rate and convert it into something that we can use. So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity with this type of development.
Wow, great. Well, my last question is, but before I even get to it, and I'm sure this will go out in editing, but homologs sounds like a creature, right? Sounds like something from like Lord of the Rings. Like there's orcs and there's elves and there's homologs. Anyway, Just an observation. I don't know if you've heard that before, but I hear homolog and I'm thinking it's like this little thing right here.
Yeah, it's quite different from homunculus. Okay?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Homunculus or homolog. Okay, all right. You'll take care of that. Yeah. All right. So based on this project, then, what's next for your team? I mean, in terms of are there other technical innovations that you've already identified that build on this, or ways of working that you're going to take going forward that you hadn't done before?
So what we really need to do is we need to explore the limits of what our system is able to process, right? So right now we haven't gotten there yet. I think we're there. We're going to get there really soon. And so we need some capital outlay in order to try to add some equipment. We need some capital outlay in order to expand the capacity of some equipment. And so when you get through working through those bottlenecks, I think that's what's on the table first. Then what I'd like to try to get our minds around is what we're really getting to is maybe total market optimization, where we begin structuring ourselves so that we're able to examine each of the values of each of these types of materials, and then we begin adjusting how we operate the plant and how we do the things that we did in order to maximize profit for Huntsman.
Great. Well, Charles, Ian, thank you very much for your innovations and sharing your story with us, and looking forward to hearing how you get to that further market optimization all the way from the market signal to how the plan is configured.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.